Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 4 of CIN708, and in this lecture we shall explore on ethics and information security from a management information systems point of view. This particular lecture is divided into two sections. So section 4.1, we shall be looking at ethics, information ethics, developing information management policies. Section 4.2 is on information security, protecting intellectual assets. The first line of defense, that is people, and the second line of defense is technology. Section 4.1, ethics. In this particular section, we will be meeting two learning outcomes. These include explain the ethical issues in the use of information age, identify the 6 electronic policies an organization should implement to protect themselves. Ethics, the principles and standards that guide our behavior toward other people. Ethics generally is the difference between what is right and what is wrong. Information ethics govern the ethical and moral issues arising from the development and use of information technologies, as well as the creation, collection, duplication, distribution, and processing of information itself. With the term ethics, another concept that comes up is ethical dilemma. Ethical dilemma is a situation in which a difficult choice has to be made between two courses of action, either of which entails transgressing a moral principle. Information ethics. Businesses and business issues relating to information ethics include intellectual property, intangible creative work that is embodied in physical form and includes copyrights, trademarks, and patents. Patent is an exclusive right to make, use, and sell an invention and is granted by a government to the inventor. Copyright, the legal protection afforded an expression of an idea such as a song, video game, and some types of proprietary documents. Pirated software, the unauthorized use, duplication, distribution or sale of copyrighted software. Counterfeit software, software that is manufactured to look like the real thing and sold as such while it is not. Fair use doctrine, in certain situations, it is legal to use copyrighted materials. Digital rights management, a technological solution that allows publishers to control their digital media to discourage, limit, or prevent illegal copying and distribution. Privacy is a major ethical issue. Privacy, the right to be left alone when you want to be, to have control over your own personal possessions, and not to be observed without your consent. Confidentiality, the assurance that messages and information are available only to those who are authorized to view them. So, can we explain the difference between privacy and confidentiality? Privacy during web interactions is a major concern for many individuals. Violating someone's privacy is a sure way to ruin a relationship. Electronic business is built on the practice of exchanging large amounts of information between many parties. Now, without privacy, there will not be any trusts. Have you ever had your privacy being violated on the internet? Think about it and think very, very carefully. Yes? No? Now, you be the judge of it. One of the most common examples of someone forwarding or blind carbon copying an email without the person's knowledge or consent. For e-business to work, Companies, customers, partners, and suppliers, they must always trust each other. Information ethics. Individuals form the only ethical components of MIS. Ethically questionable or unaccepted use of IT. Individuals copy, use, and distribute software. Search organizational databases for sensitive and personal information. Individuals create and spread viruses. Individuals hack into computer systems to steal information. Employees destroy and steal information. Have you encountered any ethical dilemmas due to technology? We must have in many different situations. Information does not have ethics, people do. Information does not care how it is used. It will not stop itself from sending spam, viruses, or highly sensitive information. Tools to prevent information misuse. 1. Information management. It examines the organizational resource of information and regulates its definitions, uses, value, and distribution, ensuring that it has the types of data or information required to function and grow effectively. Information governance, a method or system of government for information management or control. Information compliance, the act of confirming, accusing, or yielding information. Information secrecy, the category of computer security that addresses the protection of data from unauthorized disclosure and confirmation of data security, of data source authenticity. Information property, an ethical issue that focuses on who owns information about individuals and how information can be sold and exchanged. Developing information management policies. Organizations strive to build a corporate culture based on ethical principles that employees can understand and implement. These policies set employee expectations about the organization's practices and standards to protect the organization from misuse of computer systems and IT resources. Some of the policies may include ethical computer use policy, information privacy policy, acceptable use policy, email privacy policy, social media policy, workplace monitoring policy. And these policies will be discussed in the next few set of slides. Ethical computer use policy. Ethical computer use policy contains general principles to guide computer user behavior. The ethical computer user policy ensures that users are informed of the rules and by agreeing to use the system on that basis, consent to abide by the rules. For example, an ethical computer use policy might state that users should refrain from playing computer games during teaching hours or working hours. Information privacy policy. The unethical use of information typically occurs unintentionally when it is used for new purposes. Information privacy policy contains general principles regarding information privacy. For example, social security numbers started as a way to identify retirement benefits and are now used as a sort of universal personal ID. Acceptable use policy requires a user to agree to follow it to be provided access to corporate email, information systems, and the internet. Non-repudiation, a contractual stipulation to ensure that e-business participants do not deny their online actions. Internet use policy contains general principles to guide the proper use of the internet. Non-repudiation is a contractual stipulation to ensure that e-business participants do not deny their online actions. Do not deny generally means repudiate. Do you have any incidents when someone online repudiated their actions? That means denied that they had done something. Now, students must keep all of the emails, since this is one of the way to hold someone accountable. Non-repudiation, in other words. Why? For future references. There are many reasons why an organization should implement an internet use policy, including large amounts of computing resources that internet users can expand. Moreover, numerous materials that might feel are offensive. Email privacy policy. Organizations can mitigate the risks of email and instant messaging communication tools by implementing and adhering to an email privacy policy. Email privacy policy are details that extend to which email messages may be read by others. Students must know that email generally are not one of the most safest way of communicating with each other. Emails can be read by anyone who works for the internet provider. Emails can be read by anyone who works for the recipient's internet service provider. Emails can easily be read by anyone who operates any of the perhaps dozens of the internet routers that the data packets will pass through. Emails can easily be read by anyone with physical address or physical access to the telephone switching equipment in the phone company's office. Did you know that if you speak to someone over the phone in the United States, the telephone switching equipment at the phone company offices has wiretaps built into it for easy access by authorities, or actually anyone with a password such as maintenance personnel? These wiretaps started appearing after the US Congress passed the Digital Telephony Act because of the complaints by law enforcement that modern digital telephone systems were becoming harder to tap. Now refer to the illustration in the slide. How many places is one email stored each time it is sent? In the case of the slide, 4 places. And these places may include sender's computer, sender's email provider's server, recipient's email provider's server, recipient's computer. Email privacy policy continued. Spam, unsolicited email. Anti-spam policy simply states that email users will not send unsolicited emails or spam. A few methods that an organization can follow to prevent spam include disguised email addresses posted in a public electronic place. What it simply means is that instead of actually posting all of your employee emails on the corporate website, just post the name without the @xyz.com. That way, spam collecting devices will not recognize the email addresses and will not be able to send email. Opt out of member directories that may place an email address online. Choose not to participate in any activities that place email addresses online. And finally, to prevent spam, use filters. A spam filter can help prevent the arrival of spam in your email folders. Social media policy. It outlines the corporate guidelines or principles governing employee online communication. Organizations must protect their online reputations and continuously monitor blogs, message boards, social networking sites, and media sharing sites. What types of problems encountered with social media in the workplace? Some possible problems encountered with social media at workplaces include calling in sick and then posting vacation photos, cyber stalking, wasting time at work on Facebook, threatening other employees on Facebook or other social media platforms. Workplace monitoring policy. Workplace monitoring is a concern for many employees. Organizations can be held financially responsible for their employees' actions. The dilemma surrounding employee monitoring in the workplace is that an organization is placing itself at risk if it fails to monetize employees. However, some people feel that monitoring employees is unethical. The organization needs to protect itself by knowing what its employees are doing. However, does it have to monitor everything throughout the workplace? It is difficult to determine when employee monitoring crosses the ethical lines. What can an organization do to protect itself from such things such as sexual harassment, discrimination, or other forms of unethical behavior where it can be held viable? What can it do? The organization can conduct trainings on such things. They can educate their staffs or build portals in which the staffs can complain and anonymously express their views. Workplace monitoring policy continues. Information technology monitoring. It tracks people's activities by such measures as number of keystrokes, error rate, and number of transactions processed. Employee monitoring policy explicitly state how, when, and where the company monitors its employees. Common monitoring technologies include keylogger or key trapper software, a program that when installed on a computer records every keystroke and mouse click. Hardware keylogger, a hardware device that captures keystrokes on the journey from the keyboard to the motherboard. Cookie, a small file deposited on a hard drive by a website containing information about customers and their web activities. Cookies allow websites to record the comings and goings of customers, usually without their consent or knowledge. Adware, or advertisement software. Software generates ads that install themselves on a computer when a person downloads some other program from the internet. Spyware, also called as sneakware or stealthware, software that comes hidden in free downloadable software and tracks online movements, mines the information stored on a computer or uses the computer's CPU and storage for some task the user knows nothing about it. Weblog consists of one line of information for every visitor to a website and is usually stored on a web server. Clickstream records information about a customer during a web surfing session, such as what websites were visited, how long the visit was, what ads were viewed, and what was purchased. 4.2, information security. In this section, we will have a keen look at information security and its two primary lines of defense, that is people and technology. The learning outcomes for section 4.2 include describe the relationships and differences between hackers and viruses. Describe the relationship between information security policies and an information security plan. Provide an example of each of the three primary security areas: authentication and authorization, prevention and resistance, and 3, detection and response. Protecting intellectual assets. Organizational information is intellectual capital. It must be protected. Information security, the protection of information from accidental or intentional misuse by persons inside or outside an organization. Downtime, refers to a period of time when a system is unavailable. Do you agree that information requires protection? What kind of information? For example, sales information, employee pay rates and bonus information, customer credit card information. These are some of the information that is critical and must be highly protected. Security threats caused by hackers and viruses. Hacker, experts in technology who use their knowledge to break into computers and computer networks, either for profit or just motivated by the challenge. Black hat hacker. These are the different types of hackers. First one, black hat hacker, break into other people's computer systems and may look around or may steal and destroy information. Cracker, a hacker with criminal intent. Cyber terrorists seek to cause harm to people or to destroy critical systems or information and use the internet as a weapon of mass destruction. Hacktivists have philosophical and political reasons for breaking into systems and will often deface the website as a protest. Script kiddies or script bunnies find hacking code on the internet and click and point their way into systems to cause damage or spread viruses. White hat hacker work at the request of the system owners to find system vulnerabilities and plug the holes. Viruses, these are software written with malicious intent to cause annoyance or damage. Some types of viruses may include worm, a type of virus that spreads itself, not only from file to file, but also from computer to computer. The primary difference between a virus and a worm is that a virus must attach to something, such as an executable file, in order to be spread. Worms do not need to attach to anything to spread and can tunnel themselves into computers. Malware, software that is intended to damage or disable computers and computer systems. Adware is software that, although purported to serve some useful function and often fulfilling that function, also allows internet advertisers to display advertisements without the consent of the computer user. Ransomware is a form of malicious software that infects your computer and asks for money. Scareware is a type of malware designed to trick victims into giving up personal information or purchase or download useless and potentially dangerous software. Backdoor programs, viruses that open a way into the network for future attacks. Denial of service, or DOS, floods our website with so many requests for service that it slows down or crashes the site. Distributed denial of service attack, DDoS, attacks from multiple computers that flood our website with so many requests for service that it slows down or crashes. A common type is the ping of death, in which thousands of computers try to access a website at the same time, overloading it and crashing it, therefore shutting it down. Trojan horse virus hides inside other software, usually as an attachment or downloadable file. Polymorphic virus and worms, they change their form as they propagate. Security threats to e-business include elevation of privilege. It is a process by which a user misleads a system into granting unauthorized rights, usually for the purpose of compromising or destroying the system. For example, an attacker might log onto a network by using a guest account and then exploit a weakness in the software that lets the attacker change the guest privileges to administrative privileges. Malicious code includes a variety of threats such as viruses, worms, and Trojan horses. Packet tampering consists of altering the contents of packet as they travel over the internet or altering data on computer disks after penetrating a network. For example, an attacker might place a tap on a network line to intercept packets as they leave the computer. The attacker could eavesdrop or alter the information as it leaves the network. Sniffer is a program or device that can monitor data traveling over a network. Sniffers can show all the data being transmitted over a network, including passwords and sensitive information. Sniffers tend to be a favorite weapon in the hacker's arsenal. Spoofing is the forging of the return address of an email so that the email message appears to come from someone other than the actual sender. This is not a virus, but rather a way by which virus authors conceal their identities as they send out viruses. Splogs, also called as spam blogs. They may also be known as autoblog or neologism splog. It is a blog which the author uses to promote affiliated websites to increase the search engine rankings of associated sites or to simply sell links for advertisements. Hoaxes attack computer systems by transmitting a virus hoax with a real virus attached. By masking the attack by masking the attack in a seemingly legitimate message, unsuspecting users more readily distribute the message and send the attack onto their coworkers and friends, infecting many users along the way. Spyware is a software that comes hidden in free downloadable software and tracks online movements, mines the information stored on a computer, or uses the computer's CPU and storage for some tasks the user knows nothing about. According to the National Cybersecurity Alliance, 91% of the study had spyware on their computers that can cause extremely slow performance, excessive pop-up ads, or hijacked web pages. The first line of defense: people. Organization must enable employees, customers, and partners to access information electronically. The biggest issue surrounding information security is not technical, but a people issue. Most of the information security breaches result from people misusing an organization's information, either advertently or inadvertently. That means intentionally or unintentionally. For example, many people freely give up their passwords or write them on sticky notes next to their computers, leaving the door wide open for intruders. Now, social engineering. Social engineering is the art of manipulating people so that they give up confidential information. The types of information these criminals are seeking can vary, but when individuals are targeted, the criminals are usually trying to trick you into giving them your passwords or bank information, or access your computer to secretly install malicious software that will give them access to your passwords and bank information, as well as giving them control over your computer. Dumpster diving is investigating a person or business's trash to find information that can be used to attack a computer network. Dumpster divers locate financial statements, government records, medical bills, resumes, and the like simply through exploring the victim's rubbish. Pretexting. Pretexting is a type of social engineering attack that involves a situation or pretext created by an attacker in order to lure a victim into a vulnerable situation and to trick them into giving private information, specifically information that the victim would typically not give outside the context of the pretext. There are three primary information security areas. These include authentication and authorization, prevention and resistance, detection and response. Authentication and authorization. Identity theft. The forging of someone's identity for the purpose of fraud. first one is through phishing, a technique to gain personal information for the purpose of identity theft, usually by means of fraudulent email. Farming reroutes requests for legitimate websites to false websites. Sock puppet marketing is a use of false identity to artificially stimulate demand for a product, brand, or service. A false identity on the internet is known as a sock puppet or catfish, depending upon the level of detail attached to the false identity. Typically, a sock puppet has very little detail attached to it and may simply be a fictional name attached to a new Google or Yahoo email account. Astroturfing, the practice of artificially stimulating online conversation and positive reviews about a product, service, or brand. Sock puppets can be created quickly and are frequently used on social media websites that rely on customer reviews. Authentication, a method of confirming users' identities. Authorization, the process of giving someone permission to do or have something. The most secure type of authentication involves something the user knows, something the user has, and something that is part of the user. What types of authentication are you using today? What type is used at banks? What type is used for your online banking? Is it secure? Why or why not? What type would you like to have it for your online banking? Let's discuss this when we meet in our class. Something the user knows, such as a user ID and password. This is the most common way to identify individual users and typically contained a user ID and a password. This is also the most ineffective form of authentication. Over 50% of help desk calls are password related. Something that the user knows, such as a user ID and password. Continued. Smart cards and tokens are more effective than a user ID and a password. Tokens are small electronic devices that change user passwords automatically. Smart cards are a device that is around the same size as a credit card, containing embedded technologies that can store information and small amounts of software to perform some limited processing. Smart cards can act as identification instruments, a form of digital cash, or a data storage device with the ability to store an entire medical card. Something that is part of the user, such as a fingerprint or voice signature. This is by far the most effective way to manage authentication. There is a use of a human body part. Now, wherever we tend to use a human body part for authentication, the term is called biometrics. The identification of a user based on physical characteristics such as fingerprint, iris, face, voice, or handwriting. The only issue is this method can be very costly and intrusive. Prevention and resistance. Prevention and resistance technologies stop intruders from accessing and reading data. Privilege escalation is a network intrusion attack that takes advantage of programming errors or design flaws to grant the attacker elevated access to the network and its associated data and applications. There are two kinds of privilege escalation. Vertical privilege escalation. Attackers grant themselves a higher access level, such as administrator, allowing the attacker to perform illegal actions such as running unauthorized code or deleting data. For example, an attacker might log onto a network by using a guest account and then exploit a weakness in the software that lets the attacker change the guest privileges to administrative privileges. Horizontal privilege escalation. Attackers grant themselves the same level they already have, but assume that the identity of another user. For example, someone Gaining access to another person's online banking account could constitute horizontal privilege escalation. Prevention and resistance continued. Downtime can cost an organization anywhere from $100 to $1 million per hour, depending how large and the type of product or service the organization is offering. Technologies available to help prevent and build resistance to attacks include content filtering, is a process that manages or screens access to specific emails or web pages. The goal is to block content that contain harmful information. Encryption is a means of securing digital data using one or more mathematical techniques, along with a password or key used to decrypt the information. The encryption process translates information using an algorithm that makes the original information unreadable. Firewalls. A firewall is a network security device that monitors and filters incoming and outgoing network traffic based on an organization's previously established security policies. At its most basic, a firewall is essentially the barrier that sits between the private internal network and the public internet. Personal identifiable information is any data that could potentially identify a specific individual. There are two types of personal identifiable information, which includes sensitive personal identifiable information and non-sensitive personal identifiable information. Sensitive PII is information transmitted with encryption and when disclosed results in a breach of individual's privacy and can potentially cause the individual some level of harm. Sensitive PII includes biometric information, financial information, medical information, and unique identifiers such as password or social security numbers. Non-sensitive PII is information transmitted without encryption and includes information collected from public records, phone records or phone books, corporate directories, websites, etc. Non-sensitive personal identifiable information includes information that does not harm an individual, such as an address. If there is an information security breach and the information was encrypted, the person stealing the information would be unable to read it if it was encrypted. Now, encryption occurs in many different ways. Some of it may include public key encryption, certificate authority, and digital certificate. One of the common defenses for preventing a security breach is firewall. A firewall is hardware or software or the combination of both that guards a private network by analyzing the information leaving and entering the network. A firewall examines each message that wants entrance to the network, and unless the message has the correct marking, the firewall prevents it from entering the network. What would happen to an organization that did not have firewalls at the entrance of its network? The organization's servers would not be operating for long because they would be continually hacked. The illustration shows the sample firewall architecture connecting systems located in Chicago, New York, and Boston. A firewall examines each message that wants entrance to the network, and unless the message has the correct marking, the firewall prevents it from entering the network. So where would we go around placing in the firewall? If you have a look at the illustration in the slide, the firewall is just placed where the data would enter from the network or the internet. Detection and response. If prevention and resistance strategies fail and there is a security breach, an organization can use detection and response technologies to mitigate the damage. Intrusion detection software features full-time monitoring tools that search for patterns in network traffic to identify intruders. This is a very handy and a vital tool. Moreover, a single worm can cause a massive damage. For example, in August 2003, the blaster worm, type of a virus, infected over 50,000 computers worldwide and was one of the worst outbreaks of the year. The person who authored the worm, Jeffrey Lee Parson, was 18 years old at the time, was arrested by US cyber investigators for unleashing the damaging worm on the internet. The worm replicated itself repeatedly, eating up computer capacity, but did not change information or programs. The worm generated so much traffic that it brought the entire network down. So this concludes our slides for week 4. Thank you, everyone.